a secret. The MORS DELECTAMENTI HOTEL, Episode 2, The Vizier. Excuse Us, Season 3, written and created by Rodrigo Poole. Section 1, The Approach.
I am making a record, establishing that at the outset, and I shall not return to it. Mine, by my choice. My device I carried up to this mountain myself, and declared at it at the gates like a gentleman. I am a man in my office. It does not permit the account of his own conduct to be composed by some other, lesser hand. I have spent 30 years making certain that the version of the events allowed to survive this version I offered. I've seen no reason to retire undefeated. If this is ever heard, it is because I consented to it. And if it never is, then it has already performed its one function: to exit in my voice and in no one else's. It is in the evening of the 17th of May. Note the date. I intend this record to be exact in all particulars I can afford, since it is going to be inexact in that matter. My name is Izlanor Leohanart, 47, half Alaneda, born in the Republic of Kachia, and for the better part of my adult life, the Royal Vizier of the Principality of Vintenshad, a post that consists of administering the distance between what principality is and what it can bear to believe about itself. I kept my mother's tongue first, as anyone with breeding does. I consenting to the Cerulean tonight, because whoever eventually digs this record will not have earned the other one. There is a matter of this hotel requiring attention of the Crown, and the Crown has dispatched a man that it dispatches when the matter wants both discretion and a witness who can be relied upon to remember it correctly. This is the official sentence. I drafted it myself. You can tell by the Fed. I have heard the vocabulary of all the people preferred of my errand, and I declined to wear it. A week passed. I sat on a damp little office in the Toulouse district while Knight of the Cerulean Academy laid 3 items on a desk between us, one at a time. With the unhurried turning of a man dealing, a hand has already been seen, and studied my face to learn what it would do. I gave him the face of a man who is in worse. I told him I detested it, and the part of this profession I do. I meant it. It a great deal more than he understood it. He wrote down as a confession. Well, fuck him, that silly little twat. The record he played me was the voice of a young man. I will not tell you whose. I will tell you that I knew it the way one knows a thing has spent 11 months in a careful labor of not thinking about it. And that recognizing it cost me a sum I was not prepared to spend in front of a Sir Raphael de Tana, and that I have gone on not spending it in every hour since. I am exceptionally good at not spending things. You will find it is entirely architecture of my ruin. At the gate, they relieved me of my protections, such as words as prudent as men keeps, a blade I have carried since I was young enough to believe a blade the most dangerous object in the room, a ring of my mother's that performs one small and ancient office. I am not going to describe it in a scanning orb. Surrounded, that the Lord of the Guard who received it in prohibition. No charms, no paraphrase, no concentrated implements to pass the gate, as though one has recited this 9,000 times before me. The guard said all this nonsense, and I think there being no percentage of being remembered by the help. They do not take my book. They do not take this device. A blade alarms them. A volume of prose does not. That tells you everything worth knowing about the man who drafted the list, and none of it is flattering. I travel with one companion, and I can trust it to be identical on every page I open it. My ledger, I'm speaking of my ledger. It is not a person. I made my peace with that a long time ago. I am terrible at relationships of the romantic kind. Or maybe I just told this to myself. And the two are indistinguishably right up until the moment they are not. The tramway awaits. Below the gate, lit in the way one lights up a thing one wishes the guest to mistake for an honor. I have been to this hotel before. Of course, not of the way in, just to the entrance, and the record shall have to carry that particular, whether it finds it congenial or not. I know what stands at the top of this mountain. I know what is scheduled to occur beneath it tonight. And I'm going up anyway, because the only alternative it is going to stand at the gate in the cold, 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 and say the reason I could not out loud. I am Royal Vizier to the Principality of Vintenshad. I do not remain at the gates.
Welcome back to Excuse Us. This season, the podcast leaves the sleepy streets of Joyceville behind and travels to somewhere older, colder, and far more patient. The MORS DELECTAMENTI Hotel, perched on a mountain in a corner of Europe that answers to no nation's law, in the autumn of 1939, with a war about to swallow the continent whole. From a quiet little diner to a hotel that is said to travel between time and space, this isn't your ordinary haunted house story. No, this is something much darker, much stranger, much funnier, perhaps. Told through the eyes of those who arrive for an auction, a ritual, or a secret, and who rarely leave unchanged, you'll descend into one long night of dread, dark comedy, and the slow, delightful business of being consumed. Oh, and a little bit of warning before we check in. Excuse Us contains mature content intended for a mature audience, strong language, and let's just say a rather twisted sense of humor is intended. Listeners' discretion is very much advised. Section 2. The tramway. The haul rope taking the weight of a glass car and complaining of it. Brass and lacquered wood arranged to be admired. The small civilized sounds of ice and crystal. Wind off the Carpathian face, finding the seams. Below the glass, a crimson sun going down over the valley. The Principality laid out in silhouette, like a thing kept in a display case. The hush of expensive people deciding whether the company is worth the indignity of speech.
I step up into the car. The car, with the punctuality of a good servant, lurches, and I bite my tongue. Not gravely, in the small bit, not in the figuratively sense. I really do bite my gun, like every man alive has performed 100 times. A bright little coin of copper on the palate, gone by the second swallow. One does these things. I note it here only because the record is mine and I record it as thorough. You know, just as soon as I step and clank, my tongue. The tramway is a beautiful and particular manner of money that has been instructed to beauty, has to be paid handsomely to have instructions installed. Dark lacquered wood, brasswork carried well past the pointer where restraint would have reserved to it better, a bar lit from within and set in the center, so that there is no seat from which one has not been invited to admire it. Accommodations for 13, windows on every side. A brochure calls that a prospect, and I call it a figuring solution, and we are both correct. In all the very fine and all the finest of establishments that has studied the houses of its betters and copied it to the surface, without once having been asked to dine in any of them. A unit behind the bar, there is a designation of C2H60, and it greets me in Cerulean, with the even courtesy of a thing that has poured this particular drink a very great deal of times.
Good evening, sir. Would you care to sample one of our signature cocktails?
The blessedness is calibrated 1 degree too exactly. Nothing reads and pauses. I have spent a lifetime among people drilled to perform a warmth they do not possess. And I will grant that unit this much, and it performs the identical warmth at the identical temperature over every occasion. And that is one more honest hospitality that I am accustomed from a living thing. You know, because this thing is not alive. It is a robot, and it is very, very, very annoying. The old man at the left recommends a drink before I have decided to want it. Alvarin builds in the dense, durable fashion, or at least appears to, from the mountain bloodlines. The ears folded deep into his face, his spectacles riding out to the very end of his nose.
Ich empfehle den Crimson Moss.
He recommends the Crimson Moors, and he builds the sentence the way his people build everything. The load of barren words said first, and the rest left to lean on it. May Alvrith from the legendaments Alvrith got from the books, from the exercise of the table, and is more than equal to this meaning, into the dry satisfaction underneath it. I have yet to be steered wrong by an Aldrin, I tell him, in an indistinguishable preferable accent of the Albrecht. So, as a small courtesy as it is, the acknowledgment of one careful person haste to another. You are wise, he says, and charming, not a poor combination in a man of half Alanir blood, and you're standing. He pronounces standing with a faint amusement of a small man who has decided to find the word entertaining before anyone larger can. 2 seats along. The fellow, affecting to be a novelist, waves his drink away like a drunk-out idiot. He will keep, he says, to the devil he knows. Good, the man tells them, untroubled. You will come to learn your devil a little better every time. This resonates with me. Albrecht, he keeps saying it in an Aldrich way in which I clock in. The gimmick builds my drink. The old man supervises the labor with the attention of a physician and an evidence of the spectacles of the matter. The great soft cornered volume he sits at the bar in front of us, between us. A physician is what he is, like in Meter in the book. It is a medical, surgical. When the page showing at the edges, not the sort of volume a man carries up the mountain unless he expects to need it, and there is no version that needs it. When I suspended car that improvises my evening, he assures me that the Crimson Moor is the oddest drink. I will not permit you to mistake the thing for something kinder than this is. He's asked just casually, approving as though that were a quality of a man who should want a glass. I have spent my entire career arranging for people to mistake things for something kinder than they are. I accept the drink anyway. It is everything he promised. It is also the taste of faintly of Ireland. I attribute it to the tongue which I bit earlier, and I move on. Then the car halts, not slows, halts. Between one breath and the next, the hold of rope going silent. The box hanging in the cold with the castle laid out below and nothing holding any of this up. That I would care to inspect. Very much. Thank you. The unit sits down at Shaker under its breath, not meant for me, and reaching me anyway. It says,
Here we go again.
I enter the phrase into the ledger, and I keep for such things. A machine built a counterfeit, else does not sigh at the routine unless the routine is older than the building that it owns. The doors open on nothing, and then the inspector walks in. He boards with 2 of the Principality guards and the bearing of a man whom the procedure and the self fused a long time ago. He is Alanir, and the way certain people are their first language before they are anything else. I can relate, and here's the once more mercy of the evening. He's speaking my language. Where a lesser passenger would catch the shape of his courtesy and lose his edge, I receive every edge, at full length value, as intended. Bonjour, Inspector Jean-Paul Crusoe, pardonnez les intrusions. Good evening, Inspector Jacques Crusoe. He begs pardon for his intrusion, like a well-mannered conductor. He conducts the whole of it in all in this, and does not once stood to leave it. Name, age, occupation, residence, place of birth, and then with a courtesy that is exactly a courtesy that I have not more, whether there is any trait of character one would care to add, he asks the way one asks for a file that has been kept open expressively to receive the answer. The high bloodline woman 2 seats away has decided to take offense in any advance of being offended. You should know perfectly well whose daughter I am. My name is Mancina Ventivelle. I know the name, and when one knows the houses to signify them, and I know the face from the long gold of the hair and the considered weight of the jewels, and the particular ease of a woman who has never once entered a room she did not believe improved in his own estimation by her arrival. I can relate. Maximonis Ventirelli's daughter. When the inspector reaches the indelicate matter of her age, she informs him that she will pretend she did not hear so burglar a question. Or there's a small red something from the unit in the way that dismisses the law of two nations and turns our shoulder onto the way one turns one's shoulder when it's done with everybody else's shit. The inspector takes it in stride. Everything he takes as data. It comes to me, moi, and I give him exactly what every functionary who has ever held a pen in my vicinity. The truth, entire, delivered at a tempo that informs him I have nothing to hide and would not trouble to hide it from him, in particular if I had. Izlanor Leohanart, 47, half Almir. Bonjour, royal vizier to the Vintenshad. I reside within the castle. I was born in Kecha. The trait of character, I like to keep the social society of good book. True, conversation ending, and a man should always have his integrator, the answer like closest the form. There remains one further passenger, and I confess I have rather been looking forward to him. He is a man affected to be a noblest, and he is affecting it badly. Like really, really bad. 3 drinks into his accent and his scarcely begun. I know precisely who he is. I sat opposite to him a week past with Sir Rafael de Tanana, set out a permission as a pardon, which I signed as well. I watched this man decide to accept them for reasons he believed were his own. Satine B. Lerman, the papers say. The Academy's chosen instrument. The real person, of course, not being present, and kind of a open shot case. I hold my papers, I say, the Academy's chosen instrument. I hold my countenance at the civil middle distance of a stranger because we have agreed, he and I, without ever agreeing to it, that in company we have never met. He surrenders an alias, an innovation to the inspector, spills his drink, slurs a very, very inappropriate word. When the unit sits his drink before him, he picks it up and a whole of it across the bar. Again, whose loose grace of a man whose hands have stopped consulting him and decided to act on their own accord. Swears, apologizes, requests another, whose man is a bloody mess. This is what the Academy has sent up the mountain to redeem the prince. It is not a charade. It is not a show. This is the person. I drink my honest drink and I say nothing, ignoring the whole ordeal. There's been nothing to say that the spectacle is not already saying at a greater volume, with better staging. The inspector finishes with him and caps his pen, and on his way the door he leaves the man one final thing. In Alanu, in a register, I warn you to apprehend exactly, because I apprehended exactly as the detective does not. This will not be the last time for you. It is not a threat. I have not been hearing threats in this language in my whole life, and it's not one. It is the cadence of a man recollecting a thing rather than predicting it. The level tone of someone reading aloud from a record already written. He delivered it in a way I wouldn't deliver a date I am not permitted to forget. I file it because the unit sigh, and in the steadily filling drawer of things of the mountain that speaks as though the future has already happened and they attended. Old physicians rises, he sets down a few coins and then the unit divides them. No gratuity is required. Itque, he says, I know, it means, and he leaves. He leaves the surgical volume on the bar and walks to the door. And when I glance at the velvet where he was sitting there is no warmth, no crease, nothing at all. As though no weight had ever rested there, and the detective picks up on that book and turns it to his hand and decided to keep it against the chance of meeting his owner. I suppose he will not need his owner. I am nursing a thickening suspicion as to who the owner is, and I cannot prove it, and the proof has never been the thing on this mountain that frightens me. The car resumes its climb. The Crimson Moors is exactly what the old man promised. It sovereigns nothing. It is a mocktail. It contains no alcohol, and it holds the evening up before me at all in full merciless resolution, and declines to the polite about a single part of it. And I sit in the unwelcome lucidity of a man who orders the truth on the assumption that it would flatter him. It does not. It never has. And I keep ordering it.
Section 3. The Emerald Plaza. Doors built to feel like an occasion, swinging on weighted hinges. Then warmth, layered, beeswax over old stone, and beneath it, faint and patient, something sweeter the beeswax is employed to cover. A grand room receiving a guest and filing him. Period dance music, played softly and a little wrong, the way a thing is played by people who have learned the notes and not the reason for them.
I enter by the grand lobby, and the grand lobby performs for me exactly as it performs for everyone. And I am afflicted with the singular discomfort of watching a performance I help to underwrite. It is the firm with the continuant better names conducting themselves rather worse than their names, and then stumbles into a server and contrives to catch the toppling glass with a flourish, harvesting a wink from a second guest, as though larceny and grace were one accomplishment. A woman trying to set a candle at the foot of a statue is turned away by a bellhop with the gentle firmness of a reserves it to a child. In a far corner, a gentleman of evident lineage relieves himself against a pillar, and it is quartered out before he is altogether concluded. A small commentary on the lineage, and in the lineage will never read it. This is the company. They have money, the way the weather has rain, in quantity and unearned, and they have confused having it for the deserving, and the hotel has gathered them here to relieve them from that confusion. The room itself I know rather more intimately than I would care to admit on a recording. 13 pillars of the caricature shown in a semicircle, the gray-green of antique ice, cut from a range whose requesters carry my signature. In fact, the floor is marbled in black and white, and from the threshold it resolves into a compass rose of 16 points. Leather in hand, I'm not intended to read nor understand. I read it, and I understand it. A defiant of the founder's effigy, or so they say, deface the door. Palms turned out in a gesture. The brochure calls welcome hens, calls your processions on board, if you please, and then over the face, length carved drapery and stone persuasion or fall like cloth across the face, up like the way it ought to be, adorn, all a farce, all fake. The stutters, there is in fact 13 candle holders of the ring around the dais. I hold one of those candles. The wax in each original, gone the yellow of teeth. Not one of them has ever been lit. Yet I stand here with one of them in my possession. I remember the installation of these holders. I remember the figure on the invoice. I do not ask at the time why a hotel buys 13 candles and light none of them. I am asking now, so many years later, of a statue with no face that wasn't an original part of the design I agreed to let the crown pay for. The manager finds me before the desk can, and in his proper, in the manners of managers would have, and being appraised for that as well.
Welcome, your grace.
Human warmth, the worst variety. This, of course, being invocated by a machine. The warmth of a man who has rehearsed it until the rehearsal can no longer be told as an article. He takes my hand in both of his with the specific pressure of a man confirming a partnership rather than agreeing a quest.
We are honored to receive you with us again.
Again, there it sits, on the record, on his mouth the gnawing mind. The modifications have been progressed handsomely, I tell him. I let my eye travel the room with the patron's satisfaction that being part of what I came here to play, I intend to play correctly. I trust the Crown's contributions have been directed in their intended purpose. A lot of implications in that sentence.
Most assuredly, Your Grace, the Emerald Plaza has never shown to finer advantage. The proportioning of their pillars alone, the Alunier influence in the space of them, I could discourse upon for hours.
I have no doubt you could. Spare me. I prefer the room without the gloss. I prefer it. I do not doubt without the reminder of how thorough I have paid to make it what it is. Tell me their preparations for tonight's ceremonies are concluded.
To the last particular, Your Grace, an occasion of this magnitude demands a great many moving parts, and we labor diligently toward the highest attainable measure of satisfaction. You may rest entirely easy.
He says, exactly as a colleague reports on a reassures undertaking running to the schedule, and I received it exactly as one receives such a report, with a nod. And for a moment, the two of us stand inside the appalling intimacy of two men who are arranged a terrible thing together and are pleased with that arrangement. I do not neglect the auction 10:30.
There are lots of this evening calculated to reward the eye of a collector of your discernment.
Of my discernment, he says. He knows what I collect, he says. He knows what I have already paid to collect. The warmth never flickers. The warmth is the worst part, and it is the part we hold on in common. Me and this machine. He excuses himself to attend some disturbance. The gentleman at his pillar is all likelihood. And the voice, I too will arrive at my shoulders to ask whether it was the pissing man. The manager does not answer, and neither do I. And he has gone into the press of the crowd before the question can fasten itself to either of us. I do not care for the matters of the men of the broken cross. They can fuck themselves. A waiter takes his place. I'll rehearse, cheer, trusting I enjoy the hotel's finest in food and drinks. And then he offers an all-in-ear with a small agreeable smile, the general champagne sangong, the people buy it. Bloody champagne. He extends the way he extends the evening particular vintage. And the detective at my elbow, who does not have the language, and it is acutely aware of nothing at all, hears only the music of the offerings that certainly he will take the drink. Of course he will take the drink, that lush. I have the language. I will not be taking the drink. I observe you clear the checkpoint, I tell the detective, because we hold the same treaty as before. The fiction of strangers maintained by the belief of the walls that are not. And this establishment is a figure of speech. Are we meant to be acquainted? He asks. It is a small community, I tell him. You will discover that here everyone is acquainted with everyone. In time. I let in time to the work that it intends. A house this size, he says. I had supposed it would be easier to pass unremarked. Oh no, I say. They see and hear the whole of everything. That is so fucking ominous, he says. Thanks for the pat talk, champ, he says. Like a fucking twat. I mean, to furnish him in a proper obdomation, then the species of compressed wisdom of a man who in my station keeps ready at hand. But I have opened my mouth, and what comes out is not what I dispatched. And here it goes. I wanted to offer a bit of wisdom, an idiom of sorts. And I say, You may lead a horse to water, I hear myself say it, but you cannot fool it twice. You may teach a horse to fish, but you cannot make him drink. An ounce of prevention is worth. The collected wisdom of my entire education arrives shuffled, reglued along the wrong seams, pieces forced together at edges that were not meant to meet. And I stop because I've spent 40 years as a man whose every word lands exactly where he sets it. And none of those did. What in God's name are you saying? The detective says. And I have no answer because I do not know. Not knowing in one commodity at this mountain is one that you do not want to lose. And I lost it, free of charge, in bulk. Across the floor, a patron in a half mask is being made to guess at something only he can perceive, swaying a drink, listening in the grip, the belches, slurs the answer, and fire. Fine, thou dueling. Would I well Mark rated through the liquor into those soft syllables, I guess. I'm so sick of these damn puzzles, he says, plaintive to no one in particular. We'll see if I got it right, but if I got the feeling I've done this before, you absolute jackass. He has done it before. I'm arriving at the conviction that everyone in this lobby has done everything already once before. And we will do it again, because that is the nature of this beast. That is the nature of the hotel. The clientele, I tell the detective, it is eccentric. You would do well to mind yourself and to mind with whom you treat. Entitled, you mean? The two are not mutually exclusive. He asked what it is happening over there with the masked man. I tell him I do not know, nor do I care, and I've exhausted my interest in the conversation. All three are true. Altogether, they are the kindest courtesy I have left to extend. The alternative being to tell him to go fuck himself, but I will not. I have climbed the very cold mountain expressly to avoid it, and so I will.
Section 4. The Ledger. The civilized hush of a front desk, the small administrative sounds of a ledger turned and a pen uncapped. The distant orchestra still at its almost right tune. Beneath it, briefly, a sound like a held breath that is not your own.
The clerk of the desk is a unit in crimson and gold. Its face composed into a welcome it's never required to renew. It recites the hotel's pleasures to me and an unbroken ribbon, the luxuries, accommodations, the attentive services, the finest in food and drink, like I give a fuck. A memorable stay, and give it to me in the name that it brings his restation to an end. Izlanor Leohanart.
Of course, it's room 301, up the stairs and into the principal lift, which will convey you precisely where you meant to go.
To a small pause, when a moment I do not care for.
The auction commences promptly at 10:30.
Excellent, and my arrangements for these evening's occasions, have they been attended to? It is not altogether a question.
In what sense do you mean, sir?
Foolish me. This, I say, and I present the invitation, not a guest card, is the other one. My reservation for this evening.
Of course, yes. If you will allow me a moment, I shall verify the ledger that it's all being sent to.
It returns a leaf.
Here we are, with 12 months and more, sir, since the 11th of May, if last year, all has been sent to, and seen to, and arranged.
12 months and more. I hear the figure line on the record, and I decline on the record. I react to it. There were men who booked a room a year in advance for the waters. I am not persuaded this establishment believes in the waters.
We require one small thing from you, sir.
The youth continues, pleasant as ever.
A formality. If you would read that sentence out loud exactly it's set down.
He turns a card to face me after it glitches. I am a man who has trusted the written word his whole life, who has built a setup of the conviction that what it is written can be governed, and what it is governed is safe. I do not hesitate. I will come to regret that almost immediately. The card reads, "Hello, Susan. You will be quite safe so long as you read this out loud, as instructed. You should read it only in your mind, in silence. Susan, he's no longer safe." I am halfway through reading it out loud before I take in this whole that and there is a trap. By the time the sentence explains what the silent reading costs, I have already read the 7 timely, the eyes running ahead of the tongue, and when every reader's eyes turn. There is one way of obeying the card that is not exactly the way I was defining it, that I have kept Susan safe and endangered her in a single breath, and I do not know who the fuck Susan is, and the not knowing of somehow this is most alarming cause. In the document, a voice answers from no direction, and all quiet and entirely pleased. "Welcome, Izlanor. Not your grace, not Vizier, not the bare given name, not my real name, used in the whole family that uses it, and my family has dead, and that right there not being reassigned."
Good.
The clerk says.
Thank you. All arrangements have been satisfied. Now complete.
I've recovered my composure before I permit one to see that I have mislaid it. "How singular," I say, lightly, a man remarking a drop. I thought I heard.
Heard what, sir?
Nothing. I am fatigued and it's been a long ascent.
Of course you are, sir. You must be.
And then, as I turn to go with the identical untroubled courtesy,
Do not hesitate to ask me anything you require, me or Susan, at any hour.
I do not ask who Susan is. On the stare, I'm visited by a suspicion that I have already been introduced to this Susan.
Section 5. The Stairs. The lobby's murmur thinning, the orchestra fading not into silence, but into something that has decided silence is more appropriate. A change in the air that is not a sound. The specific attention of a very large room turning all at once toward one man on a staircase.
I take the stairs towards the left, and 4 steps up the evening lens on knee, with actual weights, a drowsiness you could hang a coat on, and the lobby behind the empties of sound, the way a theater empties when the house lights fall. The guests remain, the light remains, what leaves is the room's indifference. Something has decided to attend to specifically, and I've spent enough years being attended to specifically to know what the sensation feels like, and to know it is never, on any occasion, benign. The stairs continue past the point where the stairs should end. Everyone is gone, and their boys arrives from everywhere at once, and has no business being here. "Hello, my good friend. It is I, Morvaevel. How wonderful to see you again." And there, in 4 words, in the difference between the detective's night and mine, some petty god of small inconveniences introducing itself with a surplus of warmth. Hilarious. To me, it is not as strange. To me, I stood in rooms with this. I have sat at tables and transacted businesses with this. The patience in integrating thing climbing towards divinity, one swallowed name at a time. It calls me friend, because in the only sense the word still holds for a creature of Bell's description, I have earned it, the title. Wonderful to see you again. We have, in point in fact, met. That is the sentence 11 months of my life have been arranged to avoid saying. When a paper cut did, he was just pronounced it for me in the stairwell, a small talk. I am so very pleased you have accepted our invitation to this most glorious, of curious evenings. I do trust that you have taken pleasure in our especially appointed refreshments and diversions. They were frantically eager to be part of you and your experience. Pray, enjoy, and say, don't shit on the walls, and please have a good time. Accept a small voucher against whatever inconvenience you may tend to in the long way. Fuck your name, Nan. There is a folded slip between my fingers and do not observe it arrive. The instinct is older than thought, and the instinct is for the one solid object I trust in my other hand that goes in my coat, and the other one in the book, and the frightened man reaches for the thing that has never once failed him, and the badger opens my hand. A clean line parched 2 fingers, precise, surgical, exactly as deep as his wire, not a hair deeper, a neshin rather than a wound. The blood goes into the paper, and the paper drinks it, sip, 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 and the letters stand up in my own blood across the cream of it. Unhurried, certain of being read. Your deity of unnecessarily painful paper cuts loves you, wink. And beneath it, traces the same red as a signature, not a name in letters, a mark, a figure laid on this side close in itself, and a figure of 8 sideways, a sign of mathematician sits down to whom without end the signature of more die avail. I've spent my life deciding whose names go into documents, treaties, confessions, official histories of the events that did not occur in the matter of the histories relate. Never once in the whole of it I've been the paper. This is what this is. Something has signed me on my own ink, folded me closed, and put me in my pocket. And every signature in the world that I cannot strike, cannot receive, cannot bury under a kinder draft, it is one the cutting to the back of my own hand. The blood thins, it withdraws into the fibre. The paper is blank and cream and folded again, but my hand does not come away unmarked. Where the cut was, the shape remains, and the skin erased and pale and already old, as though it had been given years to heal inside a single breath. The same closed finger, the sideways 8, I already learned over a long career to recognize the mark of ownership when one sits in front of them. I have simply never expected to wear one. Somewhere in this building, I do not know yet where, there waits an emblem wrought in 4 parts, and before the night is out on 1 quarter, one will be put into my hand. The 8 in my skin is the receipt. I am beginning to suspect that I am not the collector of this transaction. I am the lot. The lobby returns to the sound of pours back in. I am standing in the stairs with 2 fingers bleeding, a blank slip of paper, a fresh mark in my skin, and a great many questions who observed nothing of whatever just occurred. The accountants, I say, to no one, pressing my hand into the lining of my coat. I do not exaggerate. I had assumed they had. I had assumed the accounts were the sort of thing one tells to a place and make it worth the price of admission. I came out to this mountain certain that I, of all men, understood what waited at the top of it. I am revising that certainty now. I am doing a great deal of revising this evening, and none of it in a document I govern.
Section 6. The lift. The lobby falling away below. A lift car that does not match the building it serves. The works complaining. A smell of metal and something older underneath. The careful quiet of a man riding a small, failing box upward in the company of a thing that talks.
The lift is old, in a way nothing else in the establishment is. The rest of the hotel wears this age as a cultivated quality, a patina of money wishing to look a long established. The lift is just old, failing, paint chipped away of metal staring in the rust, the floor scuffled and stained and tacky in one spot near the left wall that makes a small sound like it held breath when I shift my weight onto it. I do not know what made that spot tacky. I find I have no wish to know. The buttons are worn and past reading. The air carries a stale smoke, and the glass of the Vizier is foxed at the edges, the silk dyeing in a pattern that returns my reflection a few degrees wrong, older than I am. On this mountain, I am not prepared to blame the glass. There is an operator unit in here, and this one has opinions.
Welcome. Wet floor. Look down. That is the floor, and above you is the ceiling. Welcome to my moving box.
He delivers this with the warmth of a thing that has decided comedy is the service it provides. The third, I tell it.
Not the second, not the fourth, the third. Very good.
A pause, the doors drawing shut, the car deliberately rather trouble itself to climb.
What room do phantoms avoid?
And then, before I decline to participate in this foolishness,
A living room.
I do not laugh. I am, the unit may note for his records, a difficult house. The doors open on a corridor and has surrendered. Dim, a scatter of sconces, the carpet old and stained and pattern of the vine of flower worn through the center of the runner, into a suggestion of itself. The wallpaper is deep crimson figured with a repeating raven, each one rendered a little differently. It is from the last one, as though one hand had drawn these ravens, described to it in great care, and was never once allowed to see one. There is this sweet chemical smell under the must, and I have distinct sensation of being watched from the intervals between the doors, an equal distant sensation that has to be absolutely correct. A man in the bellhop's sliver comes to the other way of the run, and he's not a bellhop. He is a guest who has been here long enough to stop being anything in particular. He's muttering. The muttering's the worst of it because it is reasonable. I had to get out of here. This is not the place for me. I do not belong here. I need to find a way out, he says in the way a sane man says a true thing. And he runs past me into the stairwell, and I do not stop him because fuck him, I got other things to do. I have no comfort to offer a madman who is absolutely right. And then further along the corridor, there is a man I know rather well. And the woman with the photograph, better than the manager, better than I have ever cared to know anyone else in this fucking place. He stands at the door, and he's just... I heard the latch and the voice from the inside of the room, and a voice I will place in a moment that I will lurch in for many, many, many moments. It says, fuck off. The door is mine and is not mine. The man in front of it is me, older, worn the way a corridor sworn in, and the patina of the money replaced in the plane with the fact of damage. He strikes to shut the door and flap in the hand and says to the wood with exhaustion of a man saying it for the 14th time, not again. And he turns and sees me. And something in his face that I recognize because it is my own face composes itself into a resignation of a man who has had this conversation already. I have read the dispatchments and such phenomena. I know what the hotel is just reputed to do with the men's hours. How far apart are we, I ask him. Upon the timeline. It has been a fortnight for me, he says. You will have just come off the tramway. You have just done the desk. A fortnight. A fortnight in your standing in a corridor being refused to a door by a drunkard. I cannot keep the contempt out of my tone. I do not know, and I do not care, and I do not greatly try. And the madman, I added, the one in the bellhop's liver, who ran past me at the stairs not 3 minutes since, conversing with himself, he regards me without recognition. What man, he says. Fascinating. I intend to it cordially, and intend to the most things. Yet you do not see him at all. I see. A man with a deranged stare speaking to himself, and you ignore it. Left 3 minutes gone. We're not living the same night, he says, briskly, with the one patience of a man who has had a fortnight to make his peace with the proposition. It does not show us the same things. It shows us itself. A little further along each time, describe the lift. Horrid, I said. It was immaculate for me, he says, which tells you in which direction we are traveling. If you're still imagine you're keeping score. I intend to be down this mountain with the prince in a fraction of a time you have squandered. You will not, he says, but good fortune to you. And as I turn from him toward my own door, my own lodge, my own beginning, he says one thing quietly to my back in the level voice of a man reporting the weather. A single honest sentence either of us will speak tonight. I can see why people don't like me. I hear it. I file it where everything goes in the drawer that is permitted to trouble me, and I open my own door, and I learn nothing. I will not understand for a fortnight. He has had the fortnight, and all bought him but a chance to say it out loud to a man who will not listen, the man being himself, and he never did. He is now a stranger. It is not a prophecy. He remains me once this place has finished, kept on here, maintained at this post. And the cruelty of this arrangement is not what I made to look at him. The cruelty is what I look. I learned nothing. I learned nothing in this material he is made of.
Section 7. Room 301. A door opening on a room that has been waiting with a particular and personal patience. Not the hush of grandeur, the flat electric quiet of a place built to make a person feel like no one at all. Beneath it, faint, the sound of a thing that is glad of the company.
I shall describe the room precisely, because precision is the discipline I have left, and I intend to keep it as long as I am able. It is an office. Cramped, partitioned office, the kind in which a person of no consequence performs the labor of no consequence across a span of years, believes no mark on the record of anything. Mismatched metal furniture, a floor of cheap board, a paper board running the walls at the height settled by a committee, a logo embraced in gold, and actually, it is not gold. I can see it clearly now that it is blue and red, semicircles. 2 table lamps doing the work of windows, the whole of it in the cool, defeated colors of a place that has given up the ambition of being light. On the far wall, a hole driven through the plaster, and set on the shelf in front of it, angled and concealed a hold of failing, a mug with an proving motto glazed on its side. The kind of object presented to a man to persuade him that his small life is a large one, comically even. I understand the room before the room begins, and that is the room's first cruelty. I am royal vizier to the Principality of Vintenshad. I have stood at the right hand of the throne. I have decided the fate of provinces over breakfast, and the hotel has looked into me and to building with care, and one more room in creating designed to inform me that I, after all my hard work, am in fact just furniture. A functionary, a clerk in the partition, peppering a hall with a cheerful mug. A man whose entire significance could be boxed up in the afternoon and handed to the next interchangeable occupant. I have spent my life making certain I would never be no one. The room is no one, executed in the particle board, and he has my name on the door. Welcome, my friends. There is a man behind the desk. I do not observe arrive. Mild, soft, hands folded. A smile adjusted very slightly past the point where a smile should stop. Please come in. May I offer you a drink? I do not want a drink. I tell him so. No, oh, very well. Neither disappointed nor surprised. It is so very agreeable to have company. It grows lonely in here alone, in the dark. Not that I am complaining. No. I am merely glad to have you with me. No. Now, let us become a little acquainted, shall we? His name, as I gathered from the way of the room pronounces it, is Thadric. There are 2 more people here now, a man and a woman, both on desks in where was it empty a minute ago, talking, not to me and not to Thadric, but to each other. in the dead patient murmur of people who have shared an office for far too long. I am so weary of these blind corp reports, the man says. I know, says the woman. I feel as though I am caught up in a loop of clerical blind final entries that shall never end. He does not know how exact he is and how correct she is to become. None of them do. I am so weary of these blind corp reports, the man says. I know, says the woman. I feel as though I've been caught in a loop of clerical blind files entries that shall never end. She does not know how exact she is at being correct. None of them do, except the one of them, but is not pretending. Tell me, Frederick says to me, leaning in, the smile maintaining, how do you care to divert yourself? Do you enjoy games? Do you enjoy them? I am exceedingly fond of a game. A beat. Above all, the variety in which I am permitted to play with you. Have you been following this scandal? The woman says to the man, idly, ordering a sheaf of nothing. The one touching the Cerulean Academy? And there it is. The second blade slid in beside the first while I was occupied being made small. The partition is for my pride. The gossip is for the rest of me. I can hardly credit it, the man says, that the crown should be so entangled in such a thing, especially regarding such a prominent figure inside the court. They say it in the way clerks say such things, with a cheerful remove of people to whom it is only news. They have not the faintest notion, these figments, that the man they are gossiping beside is such a thing the crown is entangled in. The scandal wears a face, and the face is sitting at that desk between them, ordering nothing, working on nothing, being made feel like nothing, while a smiling creature decides which of them to eat first. Then it does. It eats the men first. It changes, comes over a Thadderik without a haste, the bones lengthening and shifting under the skin with a sound I am not going to render accurately, deafening, because I have no wish to remember it accurately. The flesh-pulling tops and going dense black of a thing lit cannot find purpose. It cannot purchase on. In the eyes rising to the bright chemical green, the mouth widening past the architecture of any mouth onto a frightening jaw, jagged with teeth. It grows, it fills the small office in a way grief fills a small room, and it opens that mouth, and it takes the man whole, and the man screams, and I hear the working of the teeth, grinding. The creature savors it, drinking the man down to nothing, while the woman, undisturbed, asks whether I hold an opinion on the political situation. You're live, the creature says to me, around the last of the ment, dripping from its mouth. Draw us to its close. Do not struggle, my dark master, and I shall rejoice in your death. You shall be forgotten. Your life is without a meaning. You are insignificant. Insignificant. And here is the thing it does not know. I will tell it if I could spare the breath, so I shall tell his recording instead. The recording being the only object in this room that will outlast me. Insignificant is the one word that cannot frighten a man who has built his entire life as a fortress against it. The creature has reached with all those teeth for the wrong wound. It thinks my horror is dying. My horror is the partition. My horror is the mug over the hole. The horror is that everything it says may be accurate, and I can no longer establish with lucidity. The Crimson Moors declines to spare me. Whether I came up this mountain to redeem a prince or to complete the sale of one, I do not know. There was a riddle. There's always a riddle. The boys saw that came at the door ahead of the smiling men, and I was too busy being affronted by the particle board to retain it, the logos, the slangs, the cats hanging on the walls, as in posters, because the posters was supposed to say, hang in there, as in a cheerful, to fucking forget it. I reach for it now with desperation of a man who has never in his life had to grasp at anything, who has always had the answers set into his hand on a card by a clerk, and I find I have mislaid the trick of it. The panic mounts, the contempt, this of no use, the whole armored manner I have worn for whole of my life slides off me in a partition while a demon eats a woman who is discussing my crimes, and I made in your likeness, the voice had said, and I am not you, to take the harm intended for you, and I name it mine. Drive the pin, the heart travels home. I am the manner in which a coward keeps his hands clean. I think about it. I see how deeply this riddle cuts. In an effigy, I say. It is not enough. The creature comes towards me through the pooled reminder of two people who were never people, but yet the remains are still there. An effigy, the figure into which the pins are driven into, the likeness one harms in the place of the man. I have it. I do not have it. The concept circling, the word arriving last, as the word always arrives last, as the truth always arrives last. Once the bill for the finding it has already been paid. A small figure made in your own image, a proxy for the pain you decline to bear yourself, a person sewn so that the pens in the hands might stay clean. A puppet, I say. The answer is a puppet, the doll into which another suffering's sewn. The banishing is so sound, more than a sight. A pressure let go. I shut my eyes against it. It's a voodoo doll. That's what it was. When I open them, there is light in my eyes, the like of an actual sun. In the office, it is gone. The room is spacious and full of late sun, a great clean bed at the center, a sofa, a low table, and a bath through an open door scoured the brightness. The whole of it is apology of the luxury tenders once it has shown you precisely what it thinks of you. It's a nice room. The room judges me worthy of rest. On the bed, things have been laid out with care, the care of things that wish them to be found. A torn bill, a gun missing sign set across the head of it. Above the face, I have made it particularly my business not to look at directly. A single quarter of an emblem broken into four, one corner of a sigil I half recognize and I do not like. It fits when I sit against it, against the mark in my hand, the exact description of a thing I have already been made to wear, and nothing further I intend to mention until I am obliged to. Pieces, plainly, or some larger design. I am a man who has always assumed himself the one assembling it. I do not sleep. I lie on the bed with the borrowed light, and I do not sleep. And because I cannot sleep, my hands find the scenes of the pillow on the far side, the side of a man who has always slept alone, never uses. And the stitching there that has been opened and closed again by someone who wished it to look in undisturbed. Inside it, a recording device and a label, a number 2. I ought to not play it. I play it. The voice comes out small and close, the acoustic of being held in a space, a man speaking near the device, in the entire privacy of someone who believes that no one is listening. And this, it is his voice. It is the voice I have slept 11 months laboring not to hear, the voice from Sir Rathal's office, the voice I knew the instant it played it, and have known every instant since. And I will not set down the name even now, even here, even on the one record I govern, because it is set down on the single revision I have never been able to perform. I feel intoxicated, the voice says. I have lost my wits. This place works upon my mind in every turn. Nothing is what it seems, and everything is horribly real. It is the only constant. The paint. They stand within the grounds of a place that ought to never have been, cursed for the ages, and then lower, the diction falling. The train of boys coming apart in a way that trained voice was never meant to do. I am losing my mind. I listen to the whole of it. I do not want to. I do not move until it is finished. And then I do the thing I would always done, the thing that it is my vice and my profession, and the exact architecture of my damnation, the thing that smiling demons could not make me fear because I was already doing it. I do not weep. I do not confess to the device in my hand. I hide it in my person. I begin before the voice has even faded to think of it as evidence. If I hold it, no one else can play it. If no one else can play it, the version of events that survives remains. A little while longer, the version I am at the liberty to author. I told you that at the gate, and I do not suffer another hymn to compose the account of my conduct. I have just heard the man I delivered to this place beg the darkness for his own mind. And my first lucid thought was chain of custody. This is who is making this record. I would have you understand with perfect exactness who is making this recording.
Section 8. The Bar. Soft music again. The almost right orchestra. The cold, clean sounds of a bar that never tires of being kept. The particular emptiness of a room a man comes down into when he cannot bear the one he came up to.
I go down to the bar because I cannot stay in that room with the device in my own fist. With the thought about it, and because the detective is the nearest thing to an ally I have in this building, by which I mean he's the only person who knows enough to be as compromised as I am. The high-blooded woman is leaving as I arrive, gathering herself off the stool with a bright social briskness. Right on time again, she says, to no one, to the room larger. I always so admirably punctual. I shall catch you later. Yes, yes, bye, bye, bye. She departs as though she does everything. To the departure too, where I had thing improved by her performing it. The detective is sitting at the bar with a drink in front of him, of course he is. And the loose ease of a man whose hours removed from the office desk, I last saw him shut another version of his face. I find that I am glad to see him, and I resent it. There you are, I say. I've been looking everywhere for you. Something in the timeline, I slip again, and I reach for the seam of it. What was your reward from the room? He regards me without comprehension. I have not yet been to my room. I open my mouth and close it. I have spent a fortnight in the room and has not yet been entered. The arithmetic does not resolve it. I have stocked everything except to it. There appears, I say carefully, to have been some confusion regarding my room. I require a moment of your time. In private, the unit sets a fresh drink in front of him before he asks. He lifts it and rises. Lead on, he says. And I do. Down the corridor, towards a conversation I do not yet know what at last to witness, and I will have in the company of the only man at this hotel I've not yet sold.
Section 9. The hallway. A door closing on the bar below. The hush of a corridor that has been waiting for two men to stop pretending they understand the night they are in. Then a third set of footsteps that do not sound like footsteps, and the suspended quiet of a hallway making room for something that has been here a very long time.
A fortnight, I say to him in the hall before I have decided to. What's that? It's 14 days. Now, I pass 14 days in that benign room. I hear the fracture of my voice and I despise it. I thought you arrived with me on the same day, he says. I arrived with you on the same tramway. No, he says, you didn't. I was alone on the tramway. That is not in the least what occurred, you sudden buffoon, the contempt rises to occupy the space where something worse is trying to stand. It always does. You were at the bar making a very loud spectacle yourself before the inspector and an all-physician unit. And the unit, in your return your drink, you begged another, and I observed the entire squalid performance. Back off, Izlanor. There is no drink in his voice now. None at all. You do not speak to me like that. I do not care what your standing is with your crowning. You do not, and I do not care for the terms of our arrangement. Something held in the place since a damp office 3 weeks ago was passed. In the corridor, in a half-past hour, in a pillow 20 minutes past. Come lose, I drive myself heeling to the wall once and hard like a boy, and I'm accomplished nothing. It is the relief. It is nothing. I am nothing. The room was right. You quite finished? He says. You're right. The worst comes from what I sold, and I should have said. I am. And I thought myself better prepared for this than I actually am. A fortnight, he says, lower, doing the arithmetic for himself and arriving where I have arrived. Hell, I suppose that's how long I was in there as well. And then, the edge of the sight, a figure comes up the hall towards us. The hall appears to lengthen to accommodate him, unkempt hair. The beard clinging onto the bitter part of his face, eyes holding a light that the quarter does not supply, a long, dark coat moving around him like its own weather, a great volume bound in the leather under an arm, carried the way I carried mine, and there is particular that turns my stomach. At the left of the wrist, where the cuff has fallen off, a brand, a closed figure, the sideways 8, the same mark cut into my own hand not an hour gone. He's muttering, low, in a tongue worn so smooth by repetition that the words seem to carry their own meaning somewhere underneath the words. He does not so much walk as upright. He fixes on me. The look goes past the face, and I've discovered to my feet it will not answer. It has been about 1,000 years for me, he says. Who in God's name are you? I manage. He gives it the shape of his hiss. Join us! Stand off, the detective says, somewhere at my shoulder. And then, without the darkness, he will be reborn, and he will go without again, into the darkness again. And there is a knife in his hand, a long and certain between the two of us. It does not possess so much as a letter opener, because they relieved me of my blade at the gate. In a lifetime ago, I thanked my for the courtesy. And here is the part I did not understand until the very nearly over. And understand now, it is not enrage. This is not malice of the thing at all. The ceremony above requires the approach cleared, one guessed more than there should be a quantity to subtract. The arithmetic is elementary, and I am the figure being struck from it. I go backwards, he comes forward, faster than the coat should allow it, and his hand closes my arm with a strength that is not amends. And the knife goes up and I say a thing I would rather not have on the record, and I will leave on the record regardless. Let go of me, you wretched animal. I pull, and it does not yield, and the knife starts down. And then a sound, metal on bone, enormous in this small hall, and the grip of an arm springs open, and the thing folds down onto the carpet with a hood going dark and wet beneath it. Behind it, both hands white on the length of the pipe has torn from somewhere in this failing building, breathing hard, stands the sudden buffoon, the detective, the Academy's chosen instrument, the man I have spent the entire evening holding in contempt, has just driven a length of iron through the skull of a thing 1,000 years old to keep me breathing. I have no entry for how a man is meant to receive that, and I do not attempt to open one. You are, he says, when he has his breath for it, fucking welcome. And watch your tone with me. I look at the body, and I look at the man who saved me, whom I cannot thank, because to thank him is to say out loud that I've required saving, and I have built a life I'll never once say in that. And I look at the pipe in his hands and a mark in mine, and the red coming up in the window at the hall, at the end of the hall, the blood mountain, on schedule. Everything in this place is on a schedule, except for me. 3 words. There are not my words. They are his, the gutter cerulean of a man with no breeding and nothing left to protect. I find, standing here beside this body, with this mark on my skin, they are the only words remaining but fit. Fuck this place.
This episode is made possible by listeners like you. Visit our website at lifedesign.net/excuse-us.
For support or additional information, please visit our website or Patreon page at patreon.com/rodbullart.
Tonight's production of Excuse Us, a mystery drama with delightful undertones of humor and eldritch horror,
Was produced by Rebecca Lakepool and Rodrigo Pool. Written and directed and performed by Rodrigo Pool in association with R&R Side Audio Theater.
music and sound effects by Epidemic Sound. Some other sound effects were recorded live on set. Voice modulation by 11 Labs. If you're enjoying this production, please make sure to review or subscribe to our show wherever you listen to your podcast.
Check out our Patreon page for bonus content.
Until next time, this
Is Rodrigo Pool saying thank you very much for listening.
And out of a sudden, you came through the door. At the next table, your whiskey neat. The lights were dimmed as our eyes met and you saw me. And forevermore, I'd like to share that vintage dream. And forevermore, we're living in that vintage dream.
I am sworn in a breath, and outlast the breath that swore me. I weigh more upon the one who gives than upon the one who keeps. Men break me in silence and confer upon the breaking the name of circumstance. Izlanor Leohanart made one to a brother once, and climbed a mountain to keep another. What am I?